from our community who do fast on Yom Kippur. We have for years, decades, celebrated our anniversary on Simchat Torah. And my daughter, who was in charge of Tarbut, in charge of culture on the kibbutz, was in charge of that party, and it was a wonderful party. It was a joyous celebration, and we had lots of visitors, and it was wonderful. And my son was visiting also. My daughter lives on the kibbutz with her. She's separated from her husband, but she has a husband and 3 children there. And my son came to visit. And before I went to bed, I told him, if you don't see me in the morning, don't worry, because there's a field of chatzavim, squills, of wildflowers, that I want to go take a picture of before sunrise. Thanks God, I was too tired that morning to get out of bed at 5:45, because if I had not been too tired to do that, I would not be standing here and talking to you today, because people who were where I would have been were slaughtered. 6:30 we started getting incoming rocket warnings, and we could tell right away that this was something unusual. It was just, there were so many, and it was so north of Tel Aviv and south of us. It was just, it was amazing. It was just unbelievable. And we were talking in my kibbutz WhatsApp, my teacher's WhatsApp group, saying, what's going on? What's this all about? What's happening here? And a good friend of mine, Judy, sent us a picture. She didn't write anything, but she sent a picture of the sky. And I know that she and her husband, who live on Niroz, go for sunrise walks. And I realized that she was in the fields walking. I didn't pay much attention to it. We were in survival mode. The barrage was so heavy that I was scared to stand up and close the sleeve, the iron sleeve on my window, which protects us from shrapnel. At one point I got a message on the kibbutz messaging system saying that Israel had been invaded and we should go out and close our windows, lock our doors, go back into the safe room and lock ourselves in. The only problem is the safe room does not lock. The safe room is built to keep us safe from rockets, not from infiltration. So I even did a Facebook Live. I have a Facebook group called Life on the Border with Gaza, and some of the people in the group actually came here today, which is just so amazing. So anytime something extreme happens, I turn on Facebook, do a live, and I look back at it a few weeks ago, and just it's incomprehensible. I'm talking on Facebook Live saying, I don't really think there's much need for this. Terrorists aren't going to get all the way to Nirim. There's the border fence, and there's the army, and we're a mile away from the border. They're not going to get to us, but I'll humor them. And I locked everything. So for those of you who do not know what a kibbutz is, we're a community of about 450 people. We had guests as well, so we were a little bit more. Maybe 450, because there were also people that were away, that were on vacation, because it was Simchat Torah. And all of a sudden, so we're a close community. I know where everybody lives. And on the internal messaging group, I see messages of people saying that they hear gunfire. Now, I know what a rocket exploding sounds like. I know what a mortar sounds like when it explodes. I've never heard gunfire in my community. And people are saying, we hear gunfire, and we hear Arabic outside, and we're all in the safe rooms, and we know that the only way we could keep it locked to any extent at all is by pulling down on that handle. At one point, I'm watching the messages, and people are saying they're entering our house, they're setting our house on fire. I'm seeing messages from Uriel and Amy saying our house is on fire, and baby Kai, 10-day-old baby Kai, is in the safe room with us. And they managed to dislodge the door, and the smoke is pouring into the safe room, and we're watching this live unfold. And I know where everybody lives, and I'm just watching the terrorists get closer and closer to my house, to my son-in-law's house where I know my 3 grandchildren are, to my daughter's house where she's alone. And my son was in there holding down the handle, and we started hearing gunfire, and we started hearing the Arabic outside our windows. I looked at my son, and he looked at me, and we told each other that we loved each other, and we basically said goodbye. I was sure I would not live to see another sunrise. I almost lost my 3 grandchildren that day. I didn't know about this at the time, and thank God, because I would have gone totally berserk. My son-in-law, who was part of the first responders team but couldn't go out because he had the 3 children with him, aged 2, 6, and 8. He heard the terrorists enter his house. He heard them breaking things and making noise, and he told the children, hide under the blanket. No matter what happens, don't get out from under the blanket. You're going to hear a loud sound, but don't come out. Don't come after me. Those children never listened. They listened. He saw the safe room door handle starting to move. He kicked open the door and shot the terrorist right in front of the safe room. He started going after another 2 that ran out. He realized that there were multiple highly armed terrorists just outside his door. He cut his losses and went back to protect my grandchildren. He got down on one knee, raised his weapon, and sat there for hours ready to shoot anyone who opened that door. At about the same time, my son, who understands a little bit Hebrew, Arabic, said that he heard somebody saying in Arabic, come away from there. So we had no idea what that was about, and we weren't going to go and find out. About an hour later, it had sort of quieted down, and I had not been to the bathroom. I was in physical pain. Boys are built differently. They can deal with bottles. I wasn't going to do that in front of my son. So I opened the safe room door very quietly, very carefully, to be sure that in case there's a terrorist in the house, and I didn't realize it, so I'd be able to close it really quickly. And I saw the slats on the window opposite me had been broken. So the terrorists were on my doorstep and started to break in. Divine intervention or dumb luck or my late husband watching over us, for whatever reason, they moved on. Not everybody was so lucky. Nadav Pobovel, who I've known since he was about 4, was in his house, 2 houses down from me. Next door to his mother, Hannah, 79 years old. The terrorists went into their house. They were there for about an hour. They took a picture of Hannah and Nadav and sent it to their daughter, to Hannah's daughter, Nadav's sister. That's how she knew that her family had been infiltrated by the terrorists. They put it on Facebook. So they were captured. Yegev, who I've known since he was born, and his wife Rimon from Kibbutz Magen were also abducted. And one of the visitors, Norlin, was abducted. 5 people on my kibbutz were slaughtered. Doron Meyer and his daughter Mor. Oren Alfasi, who was visiting his girlfriend, and he was holding down that handle, but they shot through, and terrorists that had a Kalashnikov bullets pierced the door. He was shot and wounded, but it took so long for the army to get to him, he bled to death. Gidon, who was Norlin's partner, also a visitor, went outside to see what was happening. They didn't know what to do. They weren't used to being on Nirim when there's an escalation, and he was, let's put it this way, they couldn't identify him for a few days. and Ro'i Popovel, Nadav's brother, who for some reason left his house. I don't know if he was trying to go and save his mother and brother, or nobody knows. They slaughtered him outside his house. It's a long story. I'm going to cut it short because it's cold out here. The first soldiers, boots on the ground, platoon arrived at Kibbutz Nirim at 1:30. That was 7 hours after the ordeal began. Truth being told, there was the commander of the Southern Brigade was in Nirim at 7, but he was slaughtered with the 2 soldiers that came with him, and his body was brought back to Gaza. So in fact, you could say that 8 people were slaughtered on Kibbutz Nirim that day. When the soldiers arrived, they went house to house, killing terrorists that they found, being sure that the area around each house was safe, and walking us to the community center. We were in that community center for an additional, they came to rescue me and my son at 5:30, 11 hours. We were in that safe room for 11 hours, petrified. And all this time, rockets are still coming in, and terrorists are rampaging around the kibbutz. So we had 11 hours of pure fear, just waiting for the terrorists to break in and to come and kill us, waiting for us to be next. And we were getting no information, no formal, accurate information about what was going on. We had no idea what was going on in the other kibbutzim even. So I was so focused on just surviving, on what was going on here. What was going on in the rest of the area was too much information for me to be able to handle at the time. I didn't find out about our losses, about our tragedies, about my friend Judy, whose name is on the other side of my dog tag, who was out with her husband. And it wound up that a few minutes after she sent that picture, was shot, as was her husband. We thought they were hijacked. We thought they were kidnapped. So I put their names on the back of my dog tag so that when they come back, I would be able to give it to them. They're not coming back, and so many aren't coming back. And I look at the pictures that you're holding, and I know so many of them. Itai was my student, and Martin was a colleague, and Tal, and Judy and Gadi. And this is just so personal for me. It's so personal. Our region is so small. We knew so many people that are just gone. So on October 7th, we faced an existential threat to our bodies. Today we face an existential threat to our communities, because kibbutz is all about community. Community is what builds resilience, and that's why I have it tattooed on my arm. Resilience, because that's the name of the game when you live where we do. So our kibbutz were in Eilat for 3 months, and we were welcomed warmly, and Am Yisrael Chai just came out in all its glory, and all the dissent and the separation and the arguments and everything just melted. And everybody came together, and if there's anything at all that came out of this, it is that unity, and I do hope we're going to be able to preserve it. After 3 months, we moved to Beersheba, our kibbutz. Each kibbutz found a different place to be. But we're divided among 4 different neighborhoods in Beersheba, and keeping community is really hard when you're so far away. I mean, it's like a 10, 15-minute drive. It's not the same. You live on a kibbutz, you open the door, you go out to the little store, you see people, you go to the community center, you see people, you have holidays together, you do things. We're going to have to work a lot harder now. And so we're in Beersheba until we can go home, and not everybody is going to come home. I don't even know if my daughter's going to come back. I will. But in order for me to come back, there's still a lot of work to do. The Army has a lot of work to do. The government has a lot of work to do, because in order for me to come back, I have to be able to have the sense of security that I had on October 6th when I said, I'm going out before sunrise to take pictures of those flowers. And it has to be more than just the sense of security, which we, of course, discovered dissipated with the fog. It's going to have to be something much more hard and substantial and true, something that we can depend on enough in order to feel safe enough to bring our children back and our grandchildren and to let them play on the lawns like they did before October 7th. And we need your support. The support that we're getting here, I came here because I was brought over to a media conference in Nashville, and I got an amazing hug from the evangelical, the Christian community. I told them, I'm not used to this. When I was a little Jewish girl growing up in New York, I didn't feel that the Christians loved me that much. But they've sort of done a tikkun. They've made up for it. And so we need your support. We need your support because everything that's happened to us, the genocidal cries, everything that's happened to us is being flipped now, and all of a sudden we're the bad guys, we're the Goliath. How does I grew up here being taught of the importance of accepting other cultures and the beauty of cultural diversity and preserving, helping your minorities to feel safe. And why isn't this country's Jews being taken care of as lovingly, as wonderfully as the other minorities? So thank you all for coming here and for all the support that you give us, because you guys inspire us back. And it's really important. We need you. We really, really need you. Thank you.